Hello everyone. In this lesson, I want to touch on risk management capabilities and how they impact supply chain strategy. Based on my prior work experiences, my ongoing interactions with industry professionals, and everyday news reports, I can confidently say that Murphy's Law applies to supply chain management. Because anything that can go wrong will eventually go wrong. Supply chains have gotten longer and more complex over time, and these kind of changes result in greater risk. Compounding this problem, our ongoing efforts become leaner and deliver goods just in time. This has made our supply chains vulnerable to disruptions. Here are just a few examples of supply chains having a very bad day. Ossifer, I swear I only had one. We had a slight problem loading your container. Hey man, don't worry, it's on the truck. We have a small load shift problem here. Don't worry, we're on the road. We might be a little late. There are wet driving conditions. We've got to be a little more careful with these gusts of wind. Bottom line, stuff happens, and it impacts our supply chains. If we have natural disasters, accidents, or war-torn environments, that impacts our ability to get the right products to the right place at the right time. If we have equipment failures, human errors, or labor strikes, our supply chains will not function as well as they could or should. As potential risks become real problems, supply chain managers better be ready for them. Traditionally, supply chain managers had two approaches to risk. They either attempted to prevent risky events from occurring, or they had plans in place to appropriately react to stuff happening. As supply chain analytics and big data capabilities have developed, modern supply chains now have a third viable approach to risk management that help predict which risky events are most likely to occur. These three overarching approaches form the foundation of risk management strategy. Let's talk about each one in a little more detail. Prevention approaches try to head off problems before they occur. Things like selecting suppliers with well-maintained equipment and stable labor forces help avoid future problems. Sourcing from suppliers located in stable geopolitical regions of the world with access to modern transportation infrastructure also prevents costly delays. Developing business relationships with well-established customers reduces risk of demand fluctuations. As these examples suggest, proactively thinking through many supply chain decisions can help managers prevent or reduce risky events from occurring. Unfortunately, some risks cannot be prevented. Think of a hurricane or other natural disaster. There is nothing we can do to stop Mother Nature. With these kinds of risks, supply chain managers simply need to shift to the second approach and be ready to react. Many companies maintain higher safety stock levels, or they have alternate sources of supply in place to account for risks. Other companies have contingency plans in place to expedite deliveries with premium modes of transportation, or perhaps they shift demand to other substitutable products. Although some risks cannot be avoided, supply chain managers can have plans in place to react quickly and minimize the adverse effects of disruptions. So now let's look at ways that managers of modern supply chains can leverage the third viable approach to risk management to help predict which risky events are most likely to occur. As computing power, data availability, and advanced statistical methods have merged together, supply chain analytics can now provide informed predictions regarding risky events. These predictions can help inform prevention and reaction approaches to risk management. It is now possible to identify risky suppliers using various forms of data. Things like financial reports, shipment history, and safety compliance, and then proactively work with these suppliers to prevent future failures. Likewise, models now exist to provide an idea of where a hurricane will make landfall and give supply chain managers advance notice so they can more optimally pre-position needed supplies. By getting better at predicting risks, supply chains can manage risks in a better, cheaper, and faster manner. So what do risk management capabilities have to do with supply chain strategy? Well, think about how Professor Lee's uncertainty matrix helps us determine the best supply chain strategy for a given set of conditions. These conditions are related to supply and demand uncertainty. Uncertainty and risk are closely related concepts. In fact, I think they're similar enough that we could potentially rename Professor Lee's uncertainty matrix and simply call it a risk matrix. The end result would be the same. Supply chain strategy selection would still depend on demand and supply characteristics. And if we leverage risk management capabilities, then we can reduce supply and demand uncertainty. By reducing these uncertainties, or risks, we know it enables strategic movement that results in more efficient and effective supply chain results. And that's why risk management is essential to supply chain strategy.